Hello, I am Scary Sibs.
I'm Scary Bro.
And we are
the Scary Sibs.
It hurts. Good. Hello, mortals, and welcome to Scary Sibs. And also, happy 1-year anniversary to our channel.
Fittingly, we are also approaching the spookiest time of the year, and no movie series defines this time of year more than the Halloween movies.
Ever since 1978, this genre-defining series has been a staple of slasher horror and an annual tradition for horror lovers every year.
This series has had multiple reboots, remakes, and resets, making the actual timeline somewhat confusing, to be honest. So it's a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure, if you will. And of course, like with any long-lasting franchise, some entries are better than others.
With that in mind, we decided to watch all of them, every Halloween movie from 1978 to now, and rank them best to worst.
Normally, with these ranking videos, we like to go from worst to best. But with this series, we decided to go in reverse because A, there shouldn't be any surprise what the best one is, and 2, this is a franchise that it's fun to see get progressively worse. So, without further ado, let's...
Said A2.
What?
Just now, you said A, there shouldn't be any surprise what the best one is, and 2, it's fun to watch this franchise get worse. You messed up.
So, without further ado, here's every Halloween film ranked best to worst.
You said A2.
Drop it.
Number 1, Halloween 1978. This iconic film started the franchise in 1978 when director John Carpenter introduced the world to Michael Myers, the mass murderer who escaped the mental institution he's been in since he murdered his sister as a child and is now wreaking havoc on the fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois. As viewers, we mainly follow the story of Laurie Strode, a teenage babysitter who, along with her friends, fall victim to Michael Myers' bloodlust.
This film is a classic for so many reasons. It single-handedly kick-started the slasher genre as we know it, and showed audiences just how scary an idea can be that's so simple and straightforward. Michael Myers is about as simplistic of a monster as you can get. A silent, faceless killer with no known motive. And yet this film made him instantly iconic and absolutely terrifying.
This movie is so scary, yet so simple. It is a classic, a staple, a masterpiece, and an unmatched inaugural film.
Number 2, Halloween H2O. This 1998 sequel and continuity reboot picks up 20 years after the events of the first 2 Halloween films and sees Laurie Strode attempt to start a new life in California under a fake name, Carrie Tate, where she works as the principal of a private school, attempts to raise her son John, and tries to move on from her horrific encounter with her murderous brother, Michael Myers. Unfortunately for her, this may prove difficult, as Myers has resurfaced and is on her trail once again.
This movie is honestly really good and shows the emotional repercussions of someone who has lasting trauma with no closure. This installment comes back around to restore faith in the series following a downhill slope in films 4 through 6, and gives us a wonderful ending that would have made a great ending for the entire series, honestly, if they had just left it alone.
This movie proved that there was still life in this franchise and provided a worthy follow-up to the original classic and its first sequel. Though, as Sister said, they just had to crap on this movie's perfect ending with a sequel to H2O. We'll get to that dumpster fire much, much further down this list.
Poor Lori. Her own brother seeking her out just to murder her. Reminds me of that time when you tried to kill me.
I never tried to kill you.
Oh, yeah?
Dinner is served.
Oh, thank you, brother, for making dinner.
Why, no problem, sister.
Is there oregano in this?
I don't know, is there?
No, I'm allergic to oregano.
Oh, no, you're not. Sister? Sister? Oh yeah, that. But to be fair, I did know you were allergic to oregano, but not to that degree. I just thought, make your face itch a little bit, get you coughing, just kind of scare you. I didn't know it would...
I rest my case. Number 3, Rob Zombie's Halloween. This remake of the classic horror movie takes a different approach in many ways. One of the new additions that I really enjoyed was seeing the backstory of Michael Myers. Some people didn't like this, feeling like the mystery made him scarier, but I think this gives him depth and makes him feel more realistic. I especially like the more developed relationship between him and Dr. Loomis. Now, later in the film, we follow the same plot as the original after Michael's an adult and escapes the institution. This time, things are just more violent and less creepy or eerie.
To respectfully contrast Sister's point of view, I personally have mixed reviews on giving Michael a backstory. On one hand, it does kind of ruin his mysterious presence by explaining too much of why he became a killer. But then, on the other hand, that was honestly the best part of the movie. I enjoyed the intense character study of this young child who slowly descends into madness, and I almost wish that this was just a prequel to the original, showing Michael as a child. After he escapes the asylum and it just becomes a remake of Halloween, the movie is nothing special, just a gorier rehash of the original film.
In short, this movie is good, and I love some of the added elements, but you just can't match the original film, no matter how much violence and gore you add.
Number 4. Halloween 2, 1981. Picking up immediately after the original film left off, this movie follows Laurie Strode being taken to the hospital after surviving Michael Myers' attack. As she recovers, Michael learns of her location and tracks her down to the hospital, where he picks off doctors and nurses in an effort to reach her. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis is in pursuit of his former patient and learns the dark reason why Michael wants to kill her so badly.
This movie has a lot of the same elements as the original film, and the creepy hospital vibe is a perfect setting for Michael to lurk around in. I do like the way this movie wraps up at the end, and other than one certain plot point that feels random and unnecessary to me, this movie is creepy, eerie, and a good way to finish up the Michael-Laurie story, as it was originally intended. However, we will see that their story is far from over.
This is one of the best sequels in the Halloween franchise, and the one that feels most like the original in spirit. It also tells the most coherent story, wrapping up the conflict in one night as opposed to 20 or 40 years later. In fact, the 1-2 punch of this and the original are my personal timeline of choice when deciding the canon of these movies, but, to each their own.
I agree, brother. This movie, coupled with the original, can be its own contained, standalone story, and is especially one of the stronger sequels in the franchise. Oh, I said franchise. Oh, can we shoot the scene again?
No! We shot it 6 times! We shot it 6 times! We're not filming it again! We shot it 6 times!
Okay. Wow, you are wound up this episode.
I take Halloween very seriously. We shot it 6 times!
Number 5, Halloween 2018. After no new releases for almost a decade, this movie was a welcome addition with John Carpenter as our producer and Jamie Lee Curtis returning to her iconic role as Laurie Strode. Set 40 years after the events of Halloween 1 and ignoring all other sequels, this film sees Michael Myers escape from the institution he has been in for 4 decades and return to Haddonfield to resume his killing spree. Laurie has been completely consumed and obsessed with the events of Halloween 1978 her whole life, and it has taken a toll on her relationships with her family members. But all that preparation is put to use when she comes face to face with Michael once again.
After not having an entry ever since Rob Zombie put his stamp on the series, many were skeptical that this legacy sequel would be any good. Fortunately, this is a very strong continuation of the original story, with Jamie Lee Curtis jumping right back into the role perfectly, and the new characters, namely Laurie's new family, being welcome additions. As well, the kills this time around are much more violent and intense, befitting the taste of modern horror fans. However, I don't feel like, that being said, that this movie ever loses sight of the franchise's feel and tone.
There are some downsides to this film, like some boring stretches and some unlovable characters, but overall it was a pretty good film.
Number 6. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. The only film in the series not to center around Michael Myers, as this was the first and so far only ill-fated attempt of the original plans of the series to be an anthology. This film instead follows Dr. Daniel Chalice, who travels with the daughter of one of his deceased patients to a remote town to uncover the origins of her father's death. While there, they uncover a sinister plot by the owner of a mask company to sacrifice thousands of children in the name of the original Celtic rituals of Halloween.
To be fair, I understand why people didn't take to this film expecting Michael Myers and getting something completely different. However, I actually like this movie. Yes, parts are a little silly and overacted, but it had a captivating storyline and was a fun watch.
This is an underappreciated gem that thankfully is getting more attention as of late. It makes me curious what kinds of movies we would have gotten if the Halloween anthology path would have been allowed to play out.
Hey, brother. I was out looking for some new Halloween decorations for this year, and I found this. What do you think?
I don't like that. Turn it off. Please. Turn it off. Turn it off! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Brother, it's off.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Put it away, please.
What is your problem?
Oh, nothing. Just, jack-o'-lanterns give me the creeps.
Jack-o'-lanterns? Really? Out of everything? You know what? Yeah, I'm not even gonna ask. Number 7, Halloween Kills. This movie picks up directly after the events of Halloween 2018. Michael is left in a burning house, and Laurie, her daughter, and granddaughter are at the hospital to recover from their wounds. Michael, of course, emerges from the fire and kills all the firefighters there, after which he escapes to continue wreaking havoc on Haddonfield and instill fear in its people.
This movie is complicated. On one hand, it has some of the best kills in the series, which is good since it's called Halloween Kills. Also, I do like the idea of Michael scaring Haddonfield so bad its citizens begin to turn on each other. However, I don't exactly like the execution of this. The movie seems to want to make some kind of statement about mob mentality and blindly giving into fear, but doesn't seem consistent on exactly what it wants to say with that. One moment, the mob is causing as much chaos as Myers and leading to innocent deaths, but then, in the next moment, our protagonists are joining them to hunt down Myers. I also don't like the treatment of the legacy characters that were brought back. Particularly Tommy Doyle, the boy that Laurie babysat in the original. He's a hyper-aggressive meathead and the leader of the mob. Still, while this movie is a bit of a frustrating watch, there are some things here to be enjoyed about it.
A lot of things in this film went a bit too far, the worst of which was making Michael so unrealistic that it made him less scary. This movie was okay. Not overly bad, but not overly good either.
Number 8. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. After audiences were displeased with the analogy route of Season of the Witch, the franchise returned to Haddonfield's signature slasher with this 1988 entry, which sees Michael Myers escape from an ambulance to chase down his niece, Jamie Lloyd, as she is his last surviving family member. As Dr. Loomis tries once again to stop his crazed patient, it's discovered that the bond between Jamie and Michael might be deeper and stranger than previously believed.
This film was a desperate attempt to bring back fans after Halloween 3 underperformed. It feels like the writers were out of ideas and trying to come up with something fresh around Michael Myers. The whole concept of Jamie and Michael's link is weird, and the ending is one of my least favorites in the entire franchise.
Actually, sister, I personally thought the ending to this film was quite interesting. I just wish the film following it would have stuck with it, instead of just wiping it away like it never happened. The rest of this film, however, was a bit dull and slow, and it's the start of the weird supernatural angle that this series took for the next few films.
Number 9. Halloween Ends. Plagued by the remnants of the events of Halloween Kills and an MIA Michael Myers, Haddonfield is in a disarray and a state of paranoia. People are turning on one another, victim blaming, jumping at shadows, and living in fear. In the middle of all of this is Corey, a young man who accidentally killed a child he was babysitting and is trying to get on with his life, but is constantly being put down and called out. As many believe, it was no accident. Meanwhile, after the death of her daughter in Halloween Kills, Laurie Strode has taken in her granddaughter Allison, and when the latter begins dating Corey, Laurie sees something in him that is familiar and not in a good way. Turns out, Corey has finally been driven mad by all the bullying and is becoming the new shape of Haddonfield, mentored by the worst mentor you could have, Michael Myers.
As the final film in this trilogy, and for now, the series, you would think that this movie would have spent most of its runtime building up the final showdown between Laurie and Michael. However, the film focuses primarily on Corey and his story, and presents him as the main killer for most of the film, with Michael being more in the background. Now, granted, Corey's story is interesting and filled with some amazing character moments. However, I don't think this was an appropriate route to go for a finale. It also doesn't make sense that Michael is suddenly so weak in this film, when in Halloween Kills, he was an invincible force of nature. If you ask me, the plots of these two films should have been flip-flopped, with the second movie showing Michael weak from the house fire, taking on a protege to kill for him, and then the third film showing him at the height of his power, rampaging through Haddonfield for that final fight.
This movie got a lot of hate when it came out, mainly due to the fact that Michael was shoved into the background in favor of Corey. I personally think it was an okay movie. It just didn't have enough Michael in it. This was an okay film, but as the finale to an iconic series, it definitely left a lot to be desired.
Number 10. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. 1 year after the events of Halloween 4, Jamie Lloyd is now in a children's psychiatric hospital after stabbing her mother under the presumed influence of Michael Myers. Myers, who has not been seen in a year, wakes up again to stalk Jamie as a mysterious figure in black makes his presence known.
This movie is weak and forgettable. It kills off one of the only likable characters that this particular set of films gives us and introduces a bunch of annoying ones like Tina. Also, it is building up for the train wreck that comes directly after this film. Granted, it does have a few redeeming qualities like Loomis completely losing his mind, but it is overall just not that good.
I believe that this film was a result of them wanting to backtrack from the shocking ending of Halloween 4, but not really knowing where to go from there with it. I personally think that they should have left Halloween 4's ending intact and given us a different angle to take the series, instead of trying to rehash the same plot again with worse results. I also personally take issue with them introducing this random cowboy in black character, who just shows up out of nowhere with no explanation, and especially the fact that he has such a huge impact on the ending. To me, that's just bad writing. And what do you keep looking at?
A mayfly got in.
We really need to set traps or something. Those are starting to get bad.
Number 11. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Okay, so this movie sounds like a parody, but it's not. So here is the, plot. We open up to a now teenage Jamie who has just given birth and is trying to escape Michael, who wants both her and the baby. Simultaneously, we see a dysfunctional Strode family who are living in Michael's old house. Danny Strode, the youngest child in the family, is seeing visions of Michael and has been exhibiting strange behavior. Meanwhile, Tommy Doyle lives across the street and is obsessed with tracking Michael down. All of these elements play into the story as we see a cult that is making sure Michael finishes his destiny and kills the rest of his family.
This film had a lot of issues in production, and there are actually two different cuts of the movie. You have the theatrical cut and the producer's cut. Sister and I watched the producer's cut, which is more consistent and well put together. But both of these movies have their issues. The main problem at the core of this film is its story. The decision to reveal Michael is under the spell of a cult that forces him to kill is utterly baffling, and honestly one of the stupidest twists in horror history. Not to mention the fact that the cult itself is very poorly implemented and not explained well. Also, this movie has one of the least satisfying endings I've seen out of any movie. This goes for either cut. I've seen both endings. And you have a mess of a film that is in no way a respectful follow-up of such an iconic series.
It is complicated and messy and honestly just so bad. Like, I can't even.
That's the same thing you said when you tried to make deviled eggs the Thanksgiving before we died.
Yes, true. I guess that's a perfect way to describe this movie. A messy, unpleasant plate of deviled eggs with too much expired mayonnaise.
Odd but strangely fitting analogy. Number 12. Halloween Resurrection. 3 years after the events of Halloween H2O, the ending of that movie is undone by Michael, who escaped by dressing a paramedic up in his clothes, who is then killed in his stead. He once again pursues Laurie, who's in an asylum after her mind breaks from killing the wrong person. He quickly kills her and then returns to his childhood home, where a bunch of college kids are competing on a reality show called Dangertainment. Not happy with his new house guests, Myers picks off the wannabe TV stars one by one.
Okay, look, this movie sucks. They should have just left H2O alone, but instead they had to come back, say, no, never mind, do Laurie dirty, and create this absolute disgrace of a film. The only thing that saves this movie is that you can tell it wasn't taking itself too seriously and was trying to be a little stupid.
I will say that it is a bit of a fun idea going in a live stream direction, and honestly, I'd be curious to see what a Halloween found footage movie would be like. However, the execution is flawed in just about every way. The characters are unlikable, the acting is god-awful, and the movie has just way too many stupid moments, like Busta Rhymes fighting Michael with karate. This was basically a horror comedy in a series that doesn't lend itself to that. But at least it wasn't actively trying to get you to take its stupidity seriously. Unlike...
Number 13, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. This movie takes place a year after Rob Zombie's original film. Laurie is living with Annie and Sheriff Brackett, and she discovers, thanks to a careless Dr. Loomis's book, that she is Michael's sister. With the help of visions of his dead mother and his child self, Michael tracks Laurie down to try to be a family again, and we see how deeply connected the two actually are.
After the grounded and realistic take that the original Rob Zombie movie had, this was a very odd direction to take the sequel. It seems to want to squeeze in more supernatural shenanigans that always seem to be the death nail for timelines in this franchise. It tries to imply a psychic link between Laurie and Michael, much akin to Jamie's in Halloween 4 and 5, and the whole ghost mom and white horse thing is just confusing and not well explained. Are they hallucinations of a crazed Michael? But then Laurie can see them too, so is it some kind of shared delusion, or are they actually ghosts? Also, this movie turns Loomis into an absolute jerk, profiting off the suffering of Haddonfield to get famous. While the first Rob Zombie film was actually okay, this one was a misfire in just about every way.
Yes, this movie takes the crown as the least likable of the Halloween movies because it just doesn't have anything good going for it.
And that was our list of every Halloween film ranked best to worst. Did you agree or disagree with any of our picks? Please let us know in the comments below.
Until next time, I'm Scary Sis.
And I am Scary Bro, and we are the Scary Sibs. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to practice my sick moves for the Halloween dance.
Was that the boogeyman?
I believe, as a matter of fact, it was.
Do you want another black eye?
No.